Week 13 of the 2025 season is officially in the books, and this week just changed everything for the playoffs. So in today's video, we're going to go through every single game of week number 13, give you guys my opinions, my thoughts, and some basic analysis for every single game. Hit the like and subscribe button if you guys do go on to enjoy. Let's hop into it. So we are going to begin with our Thanksgiving game, starting off with the Green Bay Packers defeating the Detroit Lions. So it feels like the Green Bay Packers play up to competition, but also play down to competition. This Packers team has been one of the more weird teams of the season where they have been winning games. They've won 8 games, but it never has looked the most pretty like you would want from this Packers team, because after the first few weeks, the expectations were so high. Then they had that weird loss to Cleveland, the tie with the Dallas Cowboys, the random loss to the Panthers, and you lose to the Philadelphia 10-7, like just some not great football. But this was the week, and frankly so was last week, that you took care of business, right? You handled what you needed to do. You dominated the Minnesota Vikings last week, and this week they beat the Detroit Lions. And look, I know what the final score says, it was 31-24, and it felt like Green Bay they really did a better job today. I know the numbers were super close, and you can look at some aspects and say, oh, Detroit won here, or oh, Green Bay won here. But it always kind of just, at least to me, I'm sure Lions fans will disagree, and maybe some other people will, it always felt like Green Bay had a really good grasp of this game. Like, it never really felt like this game was seriously up for debate or who was going to win this game. The big turning point for the Detroit Lions, and frankly the thing that has hurt them at times the past few years, they were 0 for 2 on 4th down. The 4th down play has to be better for Detroit. If they're going to be a team that's going to go out there and win a championship either this year, next year, or the year after, they have to be better on 4th down, because Dan Campbell is one of the most aggressive head coaches. Sometimes he's aggressive too much, and I think in this game, he was a little bit too aggressive. The offensive line is not as good as it used to be, and on those 4th downs, when it's 4th and 1, 4th or 2, it's just so much harder to get those little yards because your offensive line is not as good as it once was. So very disappointing game for the Detroit Lions. The Lions are now in a very bad situation. They're 7-5. They're currently looking outside the playoffs right now. They got a couple more tough matchups down the road. This week, they have a red-hot Dallas Cowboys team. Then they got the LA Rams. Then they have the Pittsburgh Steelers. Minnesota, I don't know. And then Chicago to end the season. Like, there's a very real chance that if the Detroit Lions don't figure it out, they might miss the playoffs. I would say this week versus the Dallas Cowboys is kind of a must-win game for this team. As for Green Bay, you're now fighting for the division. You got Chicago this upcoming week. That's going to be an awesome matchup. Next up, we got the Dallas Cowboys defeating the Kansas City Chiefs 31-28. So as you can see, I'm a Longhorns fan, and if you guys know me, I'm also a Dallas Cowboys fan. So safe to say it was a pretty good weekend for your boy. Look, I predicted the Dallas Cowboys to win this game because I felt like the Chiefs' overall aura and Patrick Mahomes and the past of what they've been kind of carried them in the consensus of what people were thinking in this game, where most people thought the Chiefs were going to win this one. But when you actually kind of looked at the finer details of this Chiefs team, they cannot run the football. They're an undisciplined team. The offensive line has not been good. And their defense, while good, is susceptible. They don't have the greatest corners. And Dallas, they're not a perfect team by no means, but they have the players that can make up for it, right? Defensively speaking, this was one of their best games. It just simply was. This defense has gotten better and better and better these past 3 weeks. And they just beat the Philadelphia Eagles last week and now the Kansas City Chiefs. And if they beat the Detroit Lions, with Philadelphia looking like they're collapsing a little bit, we'll get to them here in a second, Dallas they're not too far away, and they're a scary team. Kansas City, you basically have to win out. I think you might have one more loss you can maybe do, but even that feels a little far-fetched. It feels like now for Kansas City, if you're going to make the playoffs, which is crazy to think about, you have to start winning out right now. And unfortunately, I just don't think this team has the capacity to do so. Play calling has not been good. It feels like they've been figured out. The ground game's been bad. Mahomes hasn't been perfect either, so they got to figure it out. For the Cowboys side of things, we've talked about what is the future this upcoming week is the Detroit Lions. George Pickens is a dog. I mean, he is one of the best receivers in football, and he's outplaying CeeDee Lamb. The offensive line is really maturing. It is playing so much better these past few weeks. And even though Dak, yeah, he's got a few picks in him, but once he gets that interception out the game, he just locks in and plays so much better. So shout out to Dallas. There's a lot still to work on. They're going to need some things to go their way. But as of right now, it's not looking too bad. Next up, the Cincinnati Bengals defeated the Baltimore Ravens 32-14. So Joe Burrow returned, and he threw 46 passes in his first game back. Very inefficient day for Joe Burrow, 24 of 46 for 261 and 2 touchdowns, but the numbers are very good regardless. It's crazy to say this, but the Bengals are 4-8 and they're very much in the conversation to potentially win the division. Like, there is a real possibility that Cincinnati can win this division. When you look at their schedule, it's not going to be easy because you do have Buffalo this week. But if you beat Buffalo, you have a rematch with Baltimore here in a few weeks. If you beat Baltimore, you pick up a game off them. You then have the Miami Dolphins, the Arizona Cardinals, and the Cleveland Browns. So really, these next 2 weeks might define the season for the Cincinnati Bengals, which is wild to think about. I still don't think they're going to win the division. I still believe that either Pittsburgh or Baltimore will. But if Cincinnati does, like, what an absolute fumble from both Pittsburgh, mainly Pittsburgh, but also from Baltimore. Cincinnati looked really good in this game defensively. Like, this was probably their best defensive performance I've seen in quite a long while. I mean, the Ravens just shot themselves in the foot, like, consistently. 4 fumbles on the day, 1 interception. The offensive line could not stop and really protect Lamar Jackson. And Lamar just doesn't look like his typical self. This whole team does not look like their usual self. They had 16 first downs the entire day. And I mean, a lot of their productivity was, kind of in that first and third quarter. Second and fourth quarter, there was nothing for them. And this was really, this one was closer at times. But once that third quarter happened, it just opened up the floodgates and Baltimore never had a response. They can't seem to find that second gear. And I mean, yeah, somehow they're in front of the division somehow. So they still have everything to play for at this point. But unless they seriously improve, this team is not going anywhere in the playoffs. So they got to figure it out. I mean, they've had to figure it out the past few weeks. They've been winning. This was a good old slap in the face to kind of hopefully wake them up a little bit, and we'll see. But for Cincinnati, big time win here. Next up, the Chicago Bears defeat the Philadelphia Eagles 24-15. So I want to clear some air right now. It seems like every single time I talk about the Bears, I'm just getting absolutely shitted on for no reason. I'm not a Bears hater. I'm just simply saying the truth. Prior to this week, they did not have a good win on their resume. They just didn't. They beat the Steelers last week with Mason Rudolph, okay? Questionable about that, as was the entire world, because they didn't beat nobody. And Dennis Allen, who I criticized a little bit, not a ton. You would think I called him an idiot. I just said he wasn't doing a fantastic job. He balled out in this one. Dennis Allen had his team prepared, and that defense did great. So to any Bears fans who's coming to this video to hate me, I don't hate the Bears. I like the Bears. I don't care. I don't know where this came from, but they beat the Eagles, and this is a really impressive win. And yes, now we can start having the conversation about Chicago potentially being a legit team. I'm not saying they're going to win a Super Bowl this year, but they're the #1 seed in the NFC. They're 9-3. They have Green Bay this week, and if you beat Green Bay, probably going to make the playoffs. You're probably going to be potentially the winner of the NFC North. Their schedule does get quite hard down the stretch of the season. They got Green Bay next week. They have Cleveland, pretty winnable. And you got Green Bay again, San Francisco, and Detroit. I'm not sure how many of those you're going to win. I don't know, but this Chicago team just beat the Philadelphia Eagles. And I mean, Philadelphia, like, I'm going to focus a bit on Philadelphia here. For Bears fans, like, GG's, this is an awesome win. Dominant win. Caleb looked good. Run game looked good. I thought the defense was incredible, like, just incredible. Now, focusing on Philadelphia, man, I'm getting flashbacks to 2023. I'm getting flashbacks. I don't think they're as bad as that 23 team in terms of that second half of the season where it was just a complete collapse. But if you're not getting flashbacks, then you're kind of delusional. Back-to-back losses, back-to-back games where your offense did not show up, back-to-back games where your defense can only hold on for so long, and back-to-back games where you get embarrassed. And also, you get booed out of the stadium. I mean, they were booing them from the get-go. Like, this is not an 8-3 football team, and you would think they're 2-8 or something crazy. Like, they were getting booed out of the stadium. It's wild to see, but Eagles fans expect so much. I mean, look, the issue with this Eagles team is that the offensive line has not been as good as what it has been the few years. Saquon Barkley isn't getting help from the offensive line, but he also, let's be honest, is not the same explosive back that he was last year. Now you also add in these, the diva that is AJ Brown, and all the question marks of, is he going to ask for a trade? What's going to happen this offseason? He's pissed off. He wants more targets. So they're trying to force feed him the ball, and when they do, good things typically happen. He had a big time game today, 10 receptions for 132 and 2 touchdowns, but you scored 15 points. Jalen Hurts, and I know Eagles fans just love this guy, and I understand. He won you a freaking Super Bowl, but Jalen Hurts is not a quarterback that can carry an offense, right? He just cannot. He needs guys around him to play and elevate their game, right? He needs a good offensive line. He needs a good run game because he's not somebody that's going to consistently drop back and make dimes all across the field. No, he works best in RPO, in play action, handing the football off, bringing those safeties up a little bit, and then he can hit those deep shots to AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. That's where most of their productivity comes from. Quick underneath stuff, RPOs, not a lot of the intermediate. It's deep shots to AJ Brown and Smitty, or something underneath to Dallas Goedert, Saquon, or one of those other receivers. But now this team has no ground game. Every single team is just double teaming AJ Brown, making sure he has to work everything underneath. And this offense is not that good to do that. They can't methodically move the ball down the field. The good news for Philadelphia is that they still have a nice little buffer over the Dallas Cowboys, to where if they lose 1 or 2 more games, they'll still win the NFC East. And if you look at their schedule, it's not that hard, right? You're 8-4 now. You got the Chargers next week. Even if you lose that one, you're 8-5. You got the Raiders. You should beat the Raiders. You got Washington, who may or may not have Jaden Daniels. As a Cowboys fan, Jaden, come back, be clutch. You do got Buffalo down the stretch of the season, but assuming you beat Las Vegas and the Commanders twice, because you have them in Week 18, if you lose to LA, if you lose to Buffalo, you're still fine. But yeah, Philadelphia, man, I'm getting 2023 flashbacks, and as a Cowboys fan, keep it up, Eagles fans, keep it up. But then we get to our Sunday games, and we're going to talk about the Miami Dolphins defeating the New Orleans Saints 21-17. I'm going to try to pick up my process here. I spent a good little bit on those Thanksgiving and Black Friday games here. This one, look, neither one of these teams are going to make the playoffs, but man, Miami has been on a bit of a roll here. They're playing some really decent football. They're not going to make the playoffs. They're not a playoff caliber team, but against these lower level football teams, the Dolphins don't look that bad. I thought in general, Miami played this one pretty good. I mean, they had this game kind of wrapped up in the fourth quarter, but then they gave up a drive, and then they had the onside kick where I don't know what Miami was doing. Also, I think that probably was a bad call on the onside kick. I don't think that guy touched the football, and it did not travel 10 yards. So I think Miami kind of got screwed over by that. The good news is that, you know, the Saints just are not good enough to convert on that situation. So Miami did the job there. Minka Fitzpatrick with the big pick six. That was honestly the one kind of bad note for Tyler Shock, who I guess we'll move over to now. I thought Shock played actually not too bad. I don't think Shock is ever going to be this top 10 quarterback. I don't know if he's ever going to be of the caliber to win you a Super Bowl, but I think he's solid. Like, he looked solid out there. He made some plays. You put more talent around him. Like, I think he could work out. And in this one, you take away the pick six. I thought for the most part he played good. Now that pick six kind of cost them the game because it was a 21-17 game. You take away 7, it was a 17-14 game, hypothetically, if you get my point. Because the defense for New Orleans was not playing that bad. They didn't really do a great job of stuffing the run. Devon Achane had a couple big plays, but Tua was mostly pedestrian. He had a really bad interception too. So, I mean, the Saints defense was really not that bad out there. It just kind of came down to the fact that that pick six was crucial. It just was. And the Saints offense just didn't have enough juice. It just did not have enough to get the job done. So, you know, look, the Saints are going for the number 1 pick, and Miami, they're 5-7. I mean, could they go 10-7? No, probably not. But if they do, that'd be a fun story. But shout out to Miami, man. They keep fighting. Mike McDaniels playing for his job, frankly, and I respect that he's still grinding out there. Next up, let's talk about the Houston Texans defeating the Indianapolis Colts 20-16. And don't look now, but the Indianapolis Colts don't look as good as what they did a few weeks ago. The Colts are now no longer in the lead for the division. The Jaguars are, which we'll talk about the Jaguars here in a second. They're starting to play some really good football, and now Houston's only 1 game behind them. Indianapolis was in such a driver's seat within the division and frankly within the conference. They looked almost borderline unstoppable. The offense was great. The defense made plays, and it just feels like they've hit a really tough brick wall. Now, they have had injuries, right? Daniel Jones is dealing with a fibula injury, right? Sauce Gardner had to leave the game with, I want to say, a calf injury or something like that. Those suck, but they're still so talented around them, and I mean, this is a bit of a collapse right now. I think they've lost, 3 of their last 4 or something along those lines. You know, they've had some really bad games where against Pittsburgh, Daniel Jones got sacked 50,000 times. And, you know, in this one, you know, I give DJ and that offensive line some credit. He only got sacked 1 time for a dude that is legitimately a statue back there with his injury and, you know, with how great the defensive line is for Houston. Yes, there was some pressure. Yes, it wasn't all perfect. And yeah, he looked a little uncomfortable, but he only got sacked 1 time. So, I mean, that's that. The 0 for 2 on 4th downs were big, especially the one early where they tried to do that, like, that tush push with Tyler Warren. It was very obvious that was happening. It was a very predictable play call. And frankly, I think it was a really bad play call by Shane Steichen. Like, nobody saw Daniel Jones taking that carry. The second you saw Tyler Warren in motion, yeah, it was pretty obvious, right? It just was. I would have liked to have seen them, I don't know, get the snap to Tyler Warren and maybe he pitches it back to Taylor or something along those lines, something a bit more creative, because that was just such an obvious play call, and it was a failure on their part. I mean, that was a good looking drive. You end up with 3 or you end up with 7 on that drive. It's a totally different ball game. Doesn't really end up that way though. Obviously, Houston's defense is incredible, so I wasn't really expecting Indianapolis to score 50 out there, but can you get me 24? Can you get me 27? The answer was no, right? 3 for 10 on 3rd down, 0 for 2 on 4th down. You pumped the ball 4 times. You had 25 minutes of time possession, 2 for 4 in the red zone. Whereas on the flip side, I mean, Houston, like, they weren't great either, especially on the offense. They had 5 attempts within the red zone. 2 of them ended in touchdowns, 2 of them ended in field goals, and 1, I believe, is where the interception happened. So it wasn't like Houston was like this dominant team that was just pushing the ball down the field, making all these plays. Give credit to CJ Stroud coming back from that major injury, I believe it was a concussion or something like that. He went out there 22 of 35 for 276 and an interception. Not a great interception, by the way. Would have liked to see that one clean up. But Nico Collins with a big game. Woody Marks made a couple nice runs out there. Jaden Higgins, 5 for 65. Dalton Schultz, 7 for 55. Good to see those guys going. Good to see Houston's offense kind of settle after that really horrid start to the year. It feels like they have figured it out a little bit. They know who they are, and they're a capable unit now. They're no longer the worst in the NFL like they were through weeks like 1 to 5. With how good that defense is and with how the offense is starting to ramp it up a little bit, like Houston is back in the conversation for the division. Their schedule is not the hardest thing in the world. They have Kansas City next week. You win that one. I mean, that firmly takes Kansas City out of the race, but it's a big game for Houston. You got Arizona, you got Las Vegas, you got the Chargers later in the season, and then you have that big game versus Indianapolis late in the year that maybe could determine the division. So it'll be interesting. I still think right now Indianapolis and Jacksonville will look like they could win it, but Houston's not too far away. So that division is starting to get a little spicy. Next up, the New York Jets defeat the Atlanta Falcons 27-24. Man, if you told me this is probably like one of the best games on Sunday, I would have called you a liar. But no, this is a really fun game where, I mean, you look at the numbers, like Atlanta soundly outplayed the New York Jets, like 389 total yards for Atlanta, 269 total yards for the Jets, right? They outgained them in the passing. They outran them in the running. More first downs, way less penalties. They had 1 penalty, whereas the Jets had 9. Only 1 turnover on the day, and they were 3 for 3 in the red zone. Like, wild game here for this one, but you just got to give credit where credit is due to the New York Jets for making things happen on the offense, making things happen on special teams. Nick Folk made that game-winning kick, and there's a bunch of plays on that side of the field, including the big 83-yard kickoff return. That was big. Allowing this team to just get the job done on the offensive end and not have to consistently drive all the way down the field. And look, Tyrod Taylor's a fine backup quarterback. I know Tyrod is no longer like a starting caliber like he once was a few years ago with Buffalo and so on and so forth, but he's a capable backup quarterback. You pair him with some other guys like Adonai Mitchell, who had a really big day, 8 receptions for 102 and a touchdown. Hook him. Love to see that. Breece Hall with a big day too, 19 for 68 and a touchdown. Like, you could just get enough productivity, and then can you just make the tiny plays happen? And that's what they did. Not a horrific game for Atlanta. Kirk Cousins, I thought, was fine out there. Bijan had a big day. Kyle Pitts had a big day. If you look at the numbers, really not that bad. But you lose this game, and with them not even having their first round pick, it's like, damn, we lost, and we're not even getting any sort of benefit out of it, right? The Rams are sitting there like, oh yeah, baby, we got a top 10 pick. So yeah, I don't know what we're going to do with Atlanta. They're going to be such a fascinating team to talk about this offseason. But big time win for the Jets, just to, I don't know, gain some swagger, kind of build towards the future. It does suck and actually kind of hurt them when it comes to the draft. But with Indianapolis slowing down a little bit, they have 2 first-round picks. And I mean, if Indy continues to fall down, that pick's going to be pretty freaking good. So shout out to the Jets here. Next up, the San Francisco 49ers defeat the Cleveland Browns 26-8. So, of course, the story of this game, as for what every single Browns game will be as long as Shedeur is starting, was how did Shedeur play? Frankly, Shedeur played fine, right? He took a couple bad sacks. He just did. There's 2 fumbles on the game, too. I thought Shedeur played generally fine, right? He didn't have an interception. He only got sacked 3 times. It could have been worse. Still, though, you led an offense to 8 total points. You never got down to the red zone. You never really made anything big. There was that big touchdown pass to your tight end that was really good, but 15 total first downs, 3 for 11, 0 for 4 on 4th down. It's not great, right? And the hope for Shedeur was, okay, last week you played decent versus a bad Raiders team. can you now replicate decent play with, the offense putting up some numbers against a better team in San Francisco? And I don't think he quite checked every single box off because of the fact the team only scored 8 points. Now, when you look at actually the numbers from the game, they actually technically outgained San Francisco by 1 yard, but they only had 253, so it wasn't like it was that impressive. And frankly, this was just a game where San Francisco, they kind of took a bit of a lead early, and they never really felt threatened by Cleveland, it felt like. Because it just felt like Cleveland, outside of that big touchdown play where Shador, beautiful throw, this could be on his highlight reel, is a really good play. Outside of that play, the offense just didn't really do much, right? The run game was just okay. The fumbles really hurt them, and 2 major fumbles there. And, the receiving core is bad. It's just a tough situation to put a young quarterback like Shador, and especially a young quarterback in Shador who has issues with holding onto the ball long and, getting through his reads extremely fast. When you don't have a great number 1 receiver or a great offensive line, it's tough, right? The only thing he really has is a good ground game, and that's about it. So I didn't think he was horrendous, but I mean, there was never any doubt that San Francisco was going to win. Eventually, Cleveland's offense just was not good enough. The Browns defense kind of gave up a little bit, not literally, but, gave up in terms of they weren't stopping everything. And San Francisco won this one. For San Francisco, you're 9-4. You're firmly in the mix to make the wild card. Big time win here for you. You dominated the Cleveland Browns. It wasn't the cleanest of games. You want to see more productivity on the offense, but Christian McCaffrey made a couple plays. George Kittle with some nice plays too. And I thought Brock Purdy was good, right? He didn't have the, what was it, 4 interceptions or 3 interceptions like he had last week. So this is a team that's looking for the playoffs now, and, we'll see how it goes. Next up, maybe the upset of the week, the Carolina Panthers defeat the Los Angeles Chargers 31-28. Wow, to be honest with you, not expecting this one. I thought that Bryce would play okay in this one, but I mean, let's be honest, the Panthers versus the Rams felt a bit like a mismatch. I know the records were not terribly far apart, but it just kind of felt like a bit of a mismatch in terms of, what team was playing the best football right now and what team was, finding ways to win despite not having this greatest offense. I thought this was a great game for Bryce, a really good game, and I'm so happy for the guy. I'm really rooting for Bryce to figure it out and continue to play better. And it was so frustrating last week where it was like, man, you just played so good versus Atlanta, and then you just didn't play good at all versus San Francisco. Again, not all his fault, but, it wasn't all there. And now this week he responds and, just beat the LA Rams. And I wonder if this is now going to be the beginning of the resurgence of Bryce Young, kind of like what we saw last year where, in the back half of the year where Bryce was just on a heater playing so well, and, they weren't winning every game, but that offense was putting up numbers and Bryce was looking decent. I kind of wonder if we're heading towards that. And that would put Carolina in a really tricky situation because you have that first half of film where it was inconsistent and up and down and never really great per se outside of the Atlanta games. And then you have the second half of the season, which is shaping up now to look like it might be pretty promising. So we'll see. Regardless, though, they're 7-6, and with the fact that Tampa Bay won today, this was a big time win. Carolina, they're still in the mix here. They're not done with this thing yet. And you have 2 games later in the season, one in a few weeks and one to end the season. First, Tampa Bay. If you can win one of those games or win both of them, you might find yourself in the playoffs. And Carolina looks like they potentially could make it. I don't know if they will, but maybe they could. As for the Rams, really weird game here because Stafford starts off the game with the 2 interceptions, and it's like, whoa, what the hell just happened? And then he kind of gets back into form after that touchdown from Devontae Adams, the second one. It was like, okay, LA is going to respond here. They're going to bounce back, and they're going to win this game comfortably. But Carolina just kept punching back. It was every time the Rams hit him with an uppercut, dazed them a little bit, the Panthers shaking it off and just went back and fought a little more and punched him right in the face again too. And I mean, that's an impressive thing for Carolina. And, for the Rams, this game does not change my perspective of them. They're still, in my opinion, probably the best team in the NFL right now. And right now they would probably be my championship favorites. But, a game like this does maybe potentially poke a little hole in this Rams team when you have guys like Jalen Coker having big days, Ted McMillan having a couple nice ones, and, Bryce Young being able to move around and extend plays and make plays downfield. Maybe it starts to expose them a little bit, but I'm not worried about the Rams right now. If they struggle next week or the week after, then, we'll start to raise some questions, but I'm not too concerned. I think they're fine. Next up, the Jacksonville Jaguars defeat the Tennessee Titans 25-3. So this is a game I'll spend a few seconds on. The Jaguars could not run the football, so they put the ball in Trevor Lawrence's hand, and Trevor Lawrence, I'm not going to say this is his best game of the year, but it's definitely up there. It was the most, felt like the best, most clean game for Trevor, because Trevor would put up some numbers where he'd have like 300 yards and like 2 interceptions and a touchdown. It's like, okay, well, Trevor played all right. In this one, he played clean, 16 of 27 for 229 and 2 touchdowns. He did this with no ground game, you know, without some of his biggest weapons, and I'm not going to spend much more on it. The Titans stink. They couldn't do nothing. I feel so bad for Cam Ward. He is trying his heart out and making as much plays as he can, but that team is just so bad. They're so bad. One more thing, Jaguars need to clean up the penalties. 13 for 98. Got to clean that up. Wasn't the perfect game, but when you're going up against Tennessee, it's pretty easy. You're now the lead for the division, and if you look at their schedule, you got Indianapolis next week, you got Denver in a few weeks, then you got Indianapolis later in the season too. So handle your business. If you split with the Colts, and if you somehow beat the Broncos, or even if you lose to the Broncos, the other games are the Jets and the Titans, they're not looking too shabby. But you got to handle business next week against the Colts, and if you can beat Denver, oh hell yeah, this team might win the division. So nice turnaround for the Jaguars, who I still think, or maybe not as good as what their record says, but they win games. So you got to give it to them. Shout out to the Jaguars, man. Next up, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defeating the Arizona Cardinals 20-17. Good to see Baker Mayfield out there. It felt like last week it just kind of pulled all the hearts out of Buccaneers fans when you saw Baker Mayfield wearing the sling, and it's like, damn, man, we got Mike Evans out for a lot of time. We got injuries on the line. Bucky's missed so much time. The defense hasn't always been there. And then Baker plays this game, and that was a really kind of big sigh of relief. They also got Bucky Irving back, and I thought Bucky Irving made some nice plays out there. One play in particular, I'm sorry I don't know exactly how it went down, but Baker threw a touchdown pass, or maybe it wasn't a touchdown pass, maybe it was a big run. I can't quite remember. But Bucky Irving, who's a really not big guy, had a nice blitz pickup where, sure, he got pushed back, but he put his body on the line there, allowed Baker to step up in the pocket, and I can't remember if he ran or if he scored, but just nice to see Bucky Irving, a guy who, you know, has been injured and not really all in this year with all the injuries and things like that, get back out there and look like he cares and fighting a little bit, because they're going to need him. Like, they're going to need him the rest of the way. Big time win here, though. They're 7-5. It hasn't been pretty the past few weeks. Hopefully, this is sort of a launching off point for them to kind of return to their form, because a few weeks ago, we were talking about Tampa Bay, you know, being great and Baker winning MVP. Those talks have obviously silenced a lot. Let's see if they can start to return to form a little bit. Now, as for Arizona, I mean, you're 3-9, not much to compete for. Again, I'll say it again, watching Jacoby Brissett go back there and sling the rock 40 times is actually quite fun. So I say keep it up, man. Just let Jacoby go out there and get a nice payday this offseason. Keep him throwing the ball 50 times. I think it's fun as hell. Next up, the Minnesota Vikings lose to the Seattle Seahawks 26-0. A lot of these afternoon games were not particularly great, and this was definitely one of them. I'm not going to talk much about this one. Seattle's defense was incredible out there. The offense for Seattle was actually mostly pedestrian today. Only 219 total yards. I mean, only 2 visits to the red zone, 4 field goals. Like, Seattle's offense was not that great. Like, Jackson Smith and Jigba, one of the more quiet days for him. Only 2 for 23, but, I mean, they didn't really need him in this one. I mean, they handed the ball off and just kind of kept them clean as much as possible, because Minnesota's got a quarterback problem. And my days, Max Brosmer, oof, I feel bad for the kid. I feel bad for him. I mean, this was a tough scenario to put him into. It's a shame that Carson Wentz is now out for the season, because this would have been the perfect time to just throw Wentz out there, because, look, I don't think JJ's actually hurt. He might be, but I don't think he actually is. I think they did not want to put him up against the Seattle defense and expose him more. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's legit hurt. Seahawks fans, if you know the truth, let me know in the comment section below. But this just kind of felt like a game where it was like, we don't want to kill our young quarterback because Seattle's defense is disgustingly good. So we're going to throw out this other young quarterback, and if he balls out, then we'll just ride the hot hand. But if he doesn't, which, spoiler alert, he did not, then it is what it is. But, man, Max Brosmer, man, it felt like a fish out of water out there. I mean, and I'll give him some breaks, too. The receiving core was pathetic out there. Multiple big-time drops, just not helping their young quarterback in any sort of way. But some of the interceptions were just bad. One on 4th down where he's escaping a sack and just kind of flings it out there, and I think it goes for a pick 6. Like, just can't happen, dude. 4 interceptions on the day, 4 sacks. It just felt like, yeah, he's not it, right? I get it. Seattle's great. I felt bad for him. I really did. It was tough, and, you know, nothing else they could have done. I feel bad for Kevin O'Connell. just a few years ago, I mean, just the past couple years, you've had Daniel Jones in your roster, you've had Sam Darnold, prime Kirk Cousins, and now you're working with Max Brosmer and JJ McCarthy. It's tough out here for Vikings fans. Next up, the Buffalo Bills defeat the Pittsburgh Steelers 26-7. Big time game here for the Buffalo Bills. This was a very physical game, kind of a nasty game in some ways, where Pittsburgh's defense was jawing back at Josh Allen. There were some big time hits. There was a play where Aaron Rodgers, it looks like he got his nose busted open, but 249 rushing yards ain't too shabby there for the Buffalo Bills. I mean, multiple big runs from James Cook, Josh Allen out there making some runs, Ray Davis having some plays too. Like, this was just sort of a push it down your throat. You know, we're going to make plays. We're going to get downhill. We're going to enforce our will. I mean, they only threw the ball 23 times, and, you know, there was an interception there, but take away the interception, pretty great game for Josh Allen. Great win for Buffalo. I mean, a good quality kind of response win. You lose this one, you would have went 7-5 and had a ton of questions, but you're 8-4 now. Big time win. You're still on track to make the playoffs. Hasn't been a perfect year, but you're still getting the job done, and this is a really good physical game for them. As for Pittsburgh, I've said it like 50 times now. I feel like I don't know the word. I feel like I'm repeating myself over and over again. Pittsburgh's blown it. I mean, they had such a big lead within the division. Now they're down to the Baltimore Ravens, and Cincinnati's staring down the barrel of 4-8, and they're not even out of this thing. Like, Pittsburgh is just, I mean, their defense got slapped in the face. They were jawing back and forth, but every time they were jawing, I mean, Josh Allen was cooking them, and James Cook was cooking them too, and their offense couldn't do nothing. I mean, this is a Bills defense that has not been great this year, and I mean, the Pittsburgh Steelers had a total of 166 total yards out there. I mean, it was just a bad game, a fumble, interception. And it wasn't even like the Bills had this incredible game by no means. They really didn't. They just ran the ball down your throat. They won the time of possession, and they made you beat them in these little small pockets. And, of course, Pittsburgh just isn't that good. And, you know, Mason Rudolph went out there, and, you know, he didn't play great either. He had a really bad interception. So, yeah, but bummer game here for Pittsburgh. You know, Pittsburgh, their schedule is kind of winnable down the stretch of the season. You have the Ravens twice, you have the Detroit Lions, the Browns, and the Miami Dolphins. But with how Pittsburgh is playing right now, and I just don't know, right? I just don't know. They've lost 3 of their last 4. After that Colts game, I was like, yeah, Pittsburgh's back. And I don't know. They're just not that good this year, I guess. And lastly, let's talk about the LA Chargers defeating the Las Vegas Raiders 31-14. So if you want to hear my thoughts on the Broncos Commanders game and the Monday Night Football game, just make sure you check me out on Twitter or Instagram. I'll try to make a post on there to talk about my thoughts of the game. Not a lot to talk about here. Justin Herbert went out for a little bit, but he did return. He threw an interception, not the greatest thing in the world, but outside of that, he was really freaking good. Las Vegas stinks. I will say I give credit to Las Vegas for hanging in there. I mean, this was a 7-7 game at halftime, and, you know, it wasn't like the Chargers were dominating the game, and, you know, Las Vegas was making plays. It felt like the offense was getting there a little bit, and then the second half happened, and when you take away the Brock Bowers touchdowns, which, by the way, that second touchdown grab was disgusting. The Raiders offense just doesn't really have much to it. They tried to run the football. They tried to establish something, but despite having Ashton Jeanty, that offensive line is just so bad, and, you know, Geno threw an interception. Wasn't really all his fault, but just adds to another tally to the interception mark for him. And it's been a rough year for Las Vegas. It's been a rough year. They're 2-10 this year. I don't know what they're going to do. As for the Chargers, like, you're 8-4, and for all the injuries, for all the bad things you've gone through, you still can make the playoffs. And if you can just find a way to just get a little bit more healthy, Marion Hampton come back, you just start to figure it out a little bit more, rely on that defense, rely on Herbert, like, maybe they could win a playoff game or two, but I don't know. It feels like the injuries are so bad for this team that it's like, could they really compete with the high-level teams in the AFC? But then I'll counter that and say, who are the high-level teams in the AFC? Like, are there any high-level teams besides the Patriots and Broncos? Maybe the Bills? Like, I don't know. So maybe the Chargers have a chance. We'll see. But you guys let me know in the comment section below. What is your thoughts on every game we just saw this week? Hopefully you guys had a great Thanksgiving. I know I did. Let me know in the comment section below all your thoughts. Hit the like and subscribe button. Road to 20K. By the way, shout out to you guys. 15K subscribers. Thank you so much. 20K next. Love you guys. Peace.